Hi, welcome back to Future Fast. We have a very interesting guest, like always. And before I introduce our guest, for those of you who are here for the first time, Future Fast is an effort to bring people who are working on things that are bound to have an impact on the future. And the idea of these conversations is that to understand what are they doing and how are they doing things differently, how are they preparing for the kind of future that they envisage, and is there some pointers that we can take and try to apply in our own businesses or perhaps life. So to that extent, uh, one part of it, but also we also try to get them to make some predictions and uh, to bring some kind of an excitement, also to look forward to what future holds for us. So with that, let's jump into the conversation. And today our guest is Marco Attisani, and he's from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And wonderful to have you, Marco. Thank you so much. He's a serial entrepreneur, he's a sustainability champion, and he's an author, and he's a transhumanist. And what more we'll hope to discover in our conversation with him. With that, Marco, welcome to Future Fast. Thank you so much for making time to join us here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Marco, I understand that you started your career in IT consulting. So it's just to share with you, in India also, most people end up starting their career in IT and technology. In fact, most of my peers and have gone in the traditional route of starting the career in technology space, and I don't see many people actually transitioning to the kind of things that you're doing. So, can you share your journey with us? How did this transition happen?
But that period was a very interesting period because it was 2000, year 2000. And we both remember that by then, internet was 6 years old, the World Wide Web. So everybody was quite fascinating about the future of internet. They were starting to understand the enormous potential. And back then, huge companies, they didn't even have a website. Remember that period? It was a company with website didn't exist. So the first thing we were doing as consultants was actually building an online presence for big corporations in many sectors, from telecommunications to energy to automotive to tobacco companies. And we were trying to apply what we knew about the economy, the pay for a service, to the internet thing. You remember the subscribing and everything. You were supposed to visit the website and stay there as a television. So the website were full of animation that nobody really wanted to see twice or 3 times every time they connected to the internet. So it was the first thing we understood was that internet was not going to be at all what we were expecting it to be. And it became something completely different, to the point that new companies have arisen then. Unexpected company like Facebook, for example, just to name one, but Amazon or another one, you see, and we were there looking at what we were doing, knowing that we didn't know anything at all, but we were paid for not knowing anything. It's just incredible. The amount of, I don't want to use the term bull, that we were inventing so much that time.
Right. I don't think that today's generation would be able to connect with some of the things. We also had internet connection through dial-up here. We had to connect through the telephone. So it used to take time to connect to the internet. And we used to talk about speed in kilobytes per second, right? Today we are talking about gigabytes per second. So
in reality, we were ready for bigger things back then already, but the speed of connectivity didn't allow us to do anything that looked like television. We are now discussing on a Zoom platform,
right?
And this that was not possible a few years ago for the speed that the connectivity. That's the point. So I remember we were quite okay. What we do with the internet, just text, because the only thing that we could deal with was text and not big images, certainly not videos. But then everything changed as you and I saw coming a few years after that.
Correct.
And then there is another thing that astonished everybody. That is the real fundamental paradigm of internet. The fact that the internet allowed the masses to contribute with content production. That is the most significant revolution of the internet. It was not the central institution that the television, the broadcaster of the nation, is everybody now. And that is the most amazing thing that happened with the internet.
Yes. Back in 1998, I used to run an internet business here in Bangalore. I used to make money for, blog as a terminology came in much later. So we didn't have the term blog. So I used to call it web article, and I used to charge people to put their article on internet. And the social media was not there. So I used to call it NetPal, TAL, as a net rent. And I used to charge people to put their picture and talk about their favorite things and what kind of a friend they want to make on internet. I used to make money even out of matrimonial, advertising to say I want to marry this kind of a boy or a girl. I made money out of, I used to make money out of even jobs. Companies want to hire somebody, they have to pay to put it. The people are looking for jobs, I would make money out of that. I used to make money out of business pages. Do you remember Yahoo business pages? So on those kind of things. So I made money on everything on internet, everything that I could do. I even used to run a free post service. Of course, it was supported by a person in US. So we used to basically take emails, print them out in India, and mail it to the recipient. And later on, when that thing caught on, I started getting sponsorship. So people used to, so airmails used to take 3 weeks, one place to another. Typically from India to US or Europe, it used to take about 2 to 3 weeks. So I reduced the timeline by almost just a day, right? Email comes in today, I print it, and it's a local post in a day or maximum 3 days it will reach. And so it was funny days, and we made money. I made money then. So when you mentioned, I just recall. So yes, so from there on, how did you move towards getting into sustainability and water and energy?
Sustainability was 2008. The circumstances of life, your working experience brought me to understand the enormous potential of the renewable energy sector. I was right in the middle of industrial revolution there, back in Europe. At that moment, the government incentivized, subsidized the implementation of solar parks. There was a huge amount of money going there in this market, and everybody, I mean, the people that were actually focusing on this sector understood the amount of, they saw a financial opportunity. They didn't run after making the world a better place. They didn't care. The only thing that they were interested in was that a solar park was a financial product, an extremely profitable product, because the government paid subsidized these solar parks with huge amounts of money. So imagine the interest. And I was right in the middle of that moment. And I remember that I saw the opportunity of being, you know, first of all, an intermediary trading company, importing solar panels from China to Europe. And it was a very, let's say, not very smart business. It was just trading. But it generated a consistent amount of money because everybody was running after buying solar parks, photovoltaic panels to install parks. And then from that moment, I understood that this sector can be both very profitable and extremely useful for our future. And when the two things combine, you have to work on that sector because you know that you can generate wealth by doing the right thing, which is not always the thing that happens, you know.
Correct.
Normally we do make a lot of money out of businesses that are not at all ethical or not at all sustainable. But this is the power of renewable energy.
Right. So, Marco, tell me, what were your core learnings that kind of helped you through this transition from, like what you said, right, pure profiteering business to profit with serving a larger purpose, or as you look at sustainability from being a larger purpose?
You know, now with the United Nations have established the sustainability goal 2030 is an agenda, right? 17 main goals, subcategories all around, but 17. And then there is another phenomenon, which is the ESG, no? Environment, the paradigm. Every single company, really serious company, now is focusing on this paradigm, the sustainability paradigm. This is something that I've been thinking about 20 years ago myself. And I was looking around and say, why the major economical system is not considering as a value the quality of life of people and the environment? Why the only thing that matters while doing business is that it's a spreadsheet that goes there and says profit? And my question to you is, how is the life of your daughter or your son or your wife worth once you are there destroying your planet or destroying the life of people? How this is worth, how much this is worth in terms of capitalism? Shall we focus on business only and exclusively for money making? Or shall we adhere to consider in the equation, once you do a business that generate wealth rather than money, why shouldn't we consider as extremely valuable something that is intangible, which is the quality of life of this planet and the people on Earth? This is my understanding. I'm not here making, the Buddha person eating rice and then eating a cup of water and that's it. No, I'm saying that there is a chance for us to make a capitalism a much better system, economical system. How? Let's work on this together. Certainly by not destroying the resources, certainly not by selling junk products to people, and certainly not exploiting the world. This is not what we are supposed to do. This is my personal opinion. Okay?
Perfect. So what are you doing now that you think is going to help in build the kind of future that you want to be living in or create?
My focus has been this for at least 10 years already. 2013, when I first founded Watly, which is this symbol, is because at that moment, 2013, I understood that water and energy and information technologies are the same manifestation of a single entity. We are focusing on production of electricity and water treatment and internet connectivity or internet business, considering the three elements separated, which is not the case at all. First of all, because without electricity, internet does not exist. People assume the internet is there on computer, but the internet is primarily not information, is electricity. The amount of energy, electricity that the internet, that is in a worldwide infrastructure, consumes is enormous. You stop the production of electricity, and internet collapses immediately after 1 second. You know, the big audience, the public, do not normally assume that. Okay, and I'll tell you something more interesting indeed. And what about water? Without the water, you don't have a production of electricity, and you don't have the industry. So people are assuming that when they buy a car, their car has nothing to do with water. But you and I know that water is the basic of the industrial production.
Right.
Without water, there is no internet, in a way. So you see the potential when you are actually looking at the thing and say, okay, three manifestation of reality is the same reality. So Watly, what is it? It's a paradigm. The main goal is to create a network of autonomous solar machines interconnected together. This autonomous solar machine, we can call it also thermodynamic computers. That means computers that deal with thermodynamic processes in order to purify water from any source of contamination. Because you can have water from the sea or from a contaminated lake, and through thermodynamic vaporization of water and distillation of water, you can obtain the highest quality of water possible by then remineralizing water, and everything can be done not by centralizing the system, on the contrary, like internet, by creating a huge amount of stations. In India, for example, I'm talking about possibly 1 million, 2 million small stations that operate the purification of water locally rather than centrally. So you have the production of clean water next to the usage of that water. Instead of sending the water for thousands of kilometers in pipes, they are, which is a paradigm of the Roman Empire. And this is like creating a big station connected to another one, and then you have what we can call it the energy net or the water net. You know, the same philosophy of the internet. That's the main goal.
Wonderful. I was just looking at some statistics here in India some time ago. I found it quite odd that waterborne diseases kill nearly 1.4 million people in India every year. I don't know. That is true in every country, but numbers are different. But funnily, our governments are so strict about alcohol, right? Alcohol consumption. And in India, alcohol kills about 140,000 people every year. So it's about 10% of the number of people who die because of waterborne diseases. It's sad, nevertheless. But so that is where governments are so focused at alcohol, but they are not as focused at making sure that you get clean water to everybody. So it's irony. And then I just out of curiosity, looked up how is it in US. And funnily, even in US, I don't remember, I think more than 8,000 people die every year out of waterborne disease. Of course, US is about uh, less than one third the size of India in terms of population. And irrespective, it's the number one economy. But still, there are people die out of waterborne diseases there. And the number of people who die of alcohol is much, much smaller. So, but people, I think somewhere we seem to focus on wrong things. So,
But you and I, before starting the recording session, we were exchanging few ideas. You remember you mentioned the dinosaurs. No? Let me get back to the dinosaur again. The water industry is managed by dinosaurs. There is no innovation at all in the water industry. Okay, you have a huge power of controlling and dominating a country, because the multinational companies dealing with water are extremely powerful, as much as they are the ones dealing with the energy, oil, okay? But they are dinosaurs, okay? And the water issue is extremely interesting because, as you mentioned, the number of people dying in India, right? You don't want to know how many people die in Africa. It's just insane. We are assumed that we are talking about 5,000 people every day. It's like, having 8, 9 jumbo jets falling from the sky every single year. Every single day. Sorry, no year. Every single day. So if we were there reading every single day that 10 jumbo jets fall from the sky, what would happen in the aviation industry? People would react. That we say, no, something is wrong. It's going wrong with the aviation industry. I'm not going to fly anymore. And with the water, it's not like that. 5,000 people every day. Okay. Why? Because it's a general illness. It's not focused. And the mind is not focusing on a single enemy. It's drinking water generates it. Because you can die from diarrhea, you can die from cholera. There are many water illness generated from the water. And from the psychological aspect, you don't know how to deal with this problem in a way. So you accept it, like poverty. You accept it because it's too big a problem for being addressed by a single solution. No, there is a solution. Because I really laugh when we read, or I read, articles that say, we don't have enough water. Wait a second. We are not living on Mars. We are living on a planet which 70% of the first surface is covered by water. Our planet is full of water. The problem is not the water availability. The problem is the water pollution. The entire humanity, if you consider the entire amount of water on this planet, the fresh water is 0.3%. The 99.7% is polluted water. Why? 99% is salt, is ocean, and the rest is rivers and lakes which are contaminated. You know, the problem where it resides is not the availability of water. We have plenty of them. Plenty of it is the contamination. How can we deal with this? As I said before, let's deal locally. Let's build small and flexible infrastructure that work on solar energy primarily, or renewable energy in general, and they distribute the water in a radio which is limited, roughly limited, because only in this way you can obtain the best quality of water. Because if you pretend of sending 1 liter of water from the capital to another location 100 kilometers away, the only way you can do this is putting in the pipes chloro and chemicals to protect the water from creating bacteria. And the only way is that. So when you are at home and you open the tap, you cannot drink that water because that water has been traveling 150 or more than the 200 kilometers. And there is no sense because water is not electricity that can fly over the planet easily. Water is still a liquid and should be dealt locally. You see the potential? So, and then I really like you to, I really like to state here that the United Nations, I guess in 2004, recognized water as a civil human right.
Good.
Drinking water has become the same thing as freedom. So whenever we have a country that is dealing with a problem of drinking water, that country is violating a civil human right.
Absolutely. That's true. And unfortunately, it is true in most of the developed countries also, as much as if we are calling India as a developing country. But it's a serious situation. And somewhere I tend to feel that, I have a thesis for it. There is a popular worldview, there is an expert view, and then there is a reality, and then there is rules and laws. So the popular worldview is like we talked about, right? That water is most important. It should be our like equivalent to human rights, a right to live itself, and which it is. And alcohol is bad for health. And I'm just borrowing the same example. And if you look at expert view, water is absolutely necessary, and alcohol, if consumed in moderation, is good for health. But the reality is the statistic we just talked about, right? That there is 1.4 million people die without good water, and 140,000 die of alcohol. But the rule or laws are more worried about whether should people drink alcohol or not, instead of worrying about how do we make sure clean water is available for everybody. So I think somewhere most of the thinking is lost in these four sides. There is always a reality which is completely ignored by the rules and laws. And there is a popular view, there is also the expert, a scientific view, but people tend to address what is seemingly, or rather, taken for granted, like what is taken for granted. And so you don't worry about it. It's okay. So I
Exactly.
want to, Marco, I want to quickly jump to get you to talk about Opera W. That's your book.
Yes, thank you for asking me. Actually, it's a saga, for the moment, 2 books.
Wow.
Level 1 and level 2. And why opera? Opera is normally associated with the concept of music, opera, no? Right. But opera, in reality, from the Latin, is work.
Okay.
You know, opera is when you do build something, no? An opera, an action, okay? And why is that? Because I see the humanity as a project. There is not a project that is anthropocentric project. That means nature has established that human should be the ultimate product of evolution. No. Humanity is an intermediate passage towards something else.
Okay.
Why? Because humanity stands in a point in history of the evolution of nature as an intermediate phase. Before us, there was something else. We used to call it Homo neanderthali, Homo erectus. Before Homo erectus, there was no Homo. There was the monkey. and before the monkey, the dinosaurs before that, no? You know what I see. So when we are looking and focusing on our existence as humanity, human being, we should not say, oh, we are the ultimate step to this is the no, we are demonstrating what we are doing right now by creating artificial intelligence that will certainly become a new living entity. Maybe many people will be, whoa, wait a second. No, I don't wait, because the future does not wait. What we are doing right now is not having a chat box called ChatGPT. This is just the beginning. Artificial intelligence is not at all a screen that talks to us and solves problems. No, this is the beginning of an evolution that will affect the human nature. Because these technologies, cognitive technologies, medical technologies, and everything that is related to what we are developing outside the body of the human will ultimately become inside. And when you are there ready to implement a new medical treatment or a new cyber components because you lost your arm many years before and you want to recover mobility, and somebody says, okay, don't worry. Now we have robotics that is fully integrated with your arm. The biological system is nothing like you put an arm like today. No, I'm talking about full integration. Now what will happen is that you are transforming the Homo sapiens. And it's the fascinating thing that today we are potentially masters of our own evolution. And it will certainly happen. So the book is a story, it's a science fiction, speculative fiction, not alien or extraterrestrial Star Wars stuff. Not at all. Everything is really based on the actual hypothesis. So it's fictional, yes, it is, because the characters are fictional, but the technology is there. If you read the book, you see, okay, this is absolutely possible. But the beauty of it is that this book starts from 2020 and ends in 2030. Okay. So everything is quite understandable. We are talking about robots, we are talking about, cyborg thing here, but it's, when you read it, you say, okay, this is going to happen.
This is in English?
In English, yes.
Okay.
This one starts from 2030 and goes to 2042, and this is something completely different, because it's the exponential evolution of the protagonist, that by being a man and woman, they become transhuman. And they become something else. They do something else during the day. They don't drink alcohol anymore. They don't eat anymore. They do something completely different. Why? Because their nature has been becoming more of a God-like thing. That has nothing to do with religion. I use the term God, let's call it semi-God, as the ancient Greek, the hybrid between human and God,
Right.
Jupiter and Zeus, that were creating a sort of sun made with a human woman, that kind of person. And so this is the evolution that will happen to us. Now, I don't say that everybody will become transhuman, but most of us will desire to be transhuman in the future, next to future.
Wonderful. It's the books are available on Amazon and the stores?
Amazon, yes. Yes.
So we'll have the links below the podcast. So I urge the listeners,
thank you,
audience, please look them up, and also the links to Marco are there. So just do follow and catch up. I mean, we will have more of this going. So, Marco, we'll get back to this. I have so many more questions coming up on the your perspective on the future. But before we get to that, are there people who have been influencing you in making the person that you are? Who has impacted you? Or do you want to recall some of them?
Absolutely, I have few names in mind. The first one I would like to mention is Ray Kurzweil.
Okay.
This is, for me, sometimes you might, fantasize about the fact, about the possibility of meeting somebody in your life. I would like to meet that guy. If you ask somebody, they might say a famous actor or a famous singer. No, my dream is to meet Ray Kurzweil in person, because he, through his book, the
Singularity.
Yeah, the era of the age of the spiritual machine.
Okay.
And after that, the Singularity is near, affected my life so much, because I was 30 years old at that moment, and I still live in a linear world. I thought to myself, I used to say to myself, Marco, you know that something great is going to happen in humanity, but you have been positivity too. You're not going to see that. Maybe your son, and then I read that book and I understood the potential, the exponential goal. And I saw the possibility, not certainty, but the possibility of witnessing in 2040, 2020, 2045, the Singularity event, which is 20 years from now. I could still be living here. That means that we are not living in a linear world. Thanks to Ray Kurzweil, I understood that the future belongs to me if I keep, in a healthy shape till that moment. But I don't need 200 years. I just need 20 years to witness this. And Ray Kurzweil. Another guy, Jeremy Rifkin, a massive, important guy. For me, was extremely important because he was the one that introduced me with the hydrogen economy and the renewable economy. Jeremy Rifkin is a visionary as well. And we also say, as the last one, but I have many more, of course, people that have been dead for years already, because, we read classical books. And another guy that I really admire is Zoltan Isban. So I guess you have also interviewed him.
Well,
So this is another person that I admire, because I read his book, the Transhumanist and it affected me so much. And I have to say, a lot of this book is also thanks to Zoltan. Yes, I even name a character of my book, Zoltan, just to let you know.
Wonderful. I think I'll pass on this information to Zoltan for sure. And it would be wonderful. And also for the audience and listeners, if you have not seen or heard the podcast with Zoltan Istvan, I really urge you. It's a small podcast, but very interesting thoughts and insights. So I urge you to look it up soon after this podcast. And Marco, there was one more gentleman that I had a opportunity to do the podcast with. His name is Paul. I'm just tell you his full name, Paul Martin. Interestingly, it's a very interesting conversation. We talked about electric vehicle and the future from a point of powered by electricity, and he was talking significantly about how and why hydrogen is not a reliable fuel for vehicle, and it's waste of time and energy and money that businesses and even governments are talking about backing hydrogen. We should be double downing and focusing more on electric vehicle and focus on exploring perhaps more technologies, but definitely not hydrogen, and it's far from being ready. So that's a very interesting podcast. I do urge other listeners, if you have missed it, please go there. I'll also share that with you. So, Marco, having said that, uh, is there any books or podcasts that you follow that you want to recommend to our? Of course, I guess one is you. It's probably Ray Kurzweil's work. But
See, but
do you?
also Yuval Harari also affected
All
me
right.
so much. You know, Sapiens and Homo Deus are two magnificent books, for example, but also Nick Bostrom, when we super intelligence, the book Super Intelligence, which is a small book, but extremely sophisticated book. He speculates about the relationship between human and super intelligence, how we could deal with that. This fascinating book, Super Intelligence, Nick Bostrom. Another book that there is a Ted Chu, is a Chinese, and the book was, I don't remember the name of the book, but it was a fascinating philosophical book. I'm not yet transhumanist, I don't remember. But Ted Chu, a fascinating philosophical book about the transcendence, no, and the super intelligence and the human evolution. Okay. It was fascinating. Kai Fu also, also Chinese. I read an interesting book like AI Superpower.
Right.
And he is discussing the possibility of China becoming the first country developing the AI before USA, and which is that, you know, there is a race going on in developing AI. AI is not just for fun. There is there is a military domination behind it. The first country that get in the super intelligence, the general intelligence, is the country that will dominate the rest of the world. So between China and the US is there. And India, he didn't contemplate India for major issue, but India could also be an outsider because India is extremely powerful in that in this paradigm. Certainly, AI will not be born in Europe. Europe is far behind with this possibility. But this is other books, and I could mention few more. But these are the main people that I've. But of course, if we want to go back in time, Carl Sagan. We were talking about dinosaurs. We cannot mention Carl Sagan, the fantastic book that he wrote, explaining to us the past of the planet. These are the people, the giant people, giant.
Oh yes, great recommendations. Thank you. That's wonderful, and we'll get Marco back to talk about more on the business and the scenario of changes that is happening in this what he's working on currently. And I urge you to come back and follow it. And whatever podcast you missed, just look up and till the next conversation with Marco is up. Enjoy the ride. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marco, once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.